Good afternoon, welcome along to the B2B Marketers Guide to Going Live, brought to you by Analytica and Immediate Future. I'm Colin Jacobs, CJ. I'm the Managing Director at Immediate Future. Why am I here sharing this content with you on behalf of Analytica? Well, 12 days ago, Analytica and Immediate Future had the pleasure of putting on an amazing event in central London at the B2B Social Trailblazers Summit, and we were blessed to have over 150 CMOs come to us in person at a live event, engaging with each other and consuming a quite fabulous lineup we had. And we were fortunate to have speakers from the likes of IBM, PwC, Avanti, Mercer, Intel, BT, Neil Schaefer, who I'm sure many of you know his book by now. He was there sharing his thoughts. And this session that I'm about to share with you, I had the honour of presenting this at the B2B Social Trailblazers Summit. There was lots of actionable insight that came out of that wonderful event, and we want to give you all access to it. So there's a couple of things you should know up front. There's a hashtag on Twitter, you must go and check this out, hashtag B2B Trailblazers. It's got all the content from the day. Fair warning, there is a lot on there. So go to the bottom and scroll up and you'll be able to follow all the happenings from the day. There is also a Guild community. Guild is a closed social network, and what Analytica are brilliant at doing is creating a group for like-minded marketers to go and network with each other, pose advice, get access to the insight that was shared at the event. My colleague has very kindly dropped it into comments to make it easy for you, but do go and sign up and take a look. You'll see over the last 12 days there's already lots of conversations happening. Let me bring you back to some interesting findings from that event, because we had lots of people from some of the most interesting brands, successful marketeers, and there were some common trends that came out of the B2B Social Trailblazers Summit. Firstly, you need social first bold content. It can't be content you've grabbed from another channel and then put into social as an afterthought. You need to be building impactful social first content to get cut through. There's a real importance on community. There were shared insights around developing that community, the community that you want, and fueling it with content that's going to be to the betterment of their being part of your community. And then linked to that, which really ladders to the whole influencer piece, which was a thread from the day, people-led content, having people at the core of your content. If you do those three things, you'll move your B2B content on. Hopefully there's already some actionable insight for you. Let's get back to the reason you're here today, though, the B2B Marketers Guide to Going Live. We promised you opinion, know-how, insight, a use case from a customer, and roads leading to being able to cultivate a multi-million-pound attributed pipeline. I know many of you have joined early from the States. Michael, thank you so much for making the effort to get up early. Hopefully you will learn something today. No further ado, let's crack on. My message to you, be more chameleon. And the reason I say this, the reason I absolutely believe B2B marketers need to be more chameleon is chameleons are amazing animals. You will know that they're known for their ability to change color and that they can choose when to stand out from the habitat around them. But what you may not know is that they're brilliantly built to hunt prey too. They've got two independently mobile eyes that capture two separate images that the brain is analyzing, forming that picture of the habitat around them. They've got a compressed body, a swaying gait, and a tail that enables them to be both agile and stable in dynamic action. So once prey is identified and they're confident everything is set correctly, they pounce, making that bold decision to reveal themselves to the habitat around them and snaffle that opportunity that's in front of them. See, they're not striking at every opportunity that comes past. Chameleons can choose when to be timid and hide, but they can choose to be bold and reveal themselves to the habitat around them. And that's my metaphor to the B2B marketing industry, because B2B marketing is flush with brands who are timid chameleons. They possess the talent and ability to change color and stand out, but they're yet to either be empowered to be bold or they're yet to embrace the opportunity to be bold. Instead, they're continuing to produce the same old content, which means they're staying hidden within that habitat around them. Upon engagement with new clients, the first thing we do in Immediate Future is assess all the content across industry. And what's really shocking is how much of it looks the same. Let me give you an example. Cloud computing. There are millions of posts from thousands, if not tens of thousands of brands, but they all look the same. They're all images of clouds or rain or storms and various metaphors of storms. And despite differing brand colors, ultimately, all these posts look like they've come from the same brand because they're saying the same message and they look the same. And because we think we've seen them before, because it's all samey, we scroll past the content. We need more brands to choose to be the bold chameleon rather than the shy, timid chameleon that continues to hide within its habitat. And a stellar way to stand out and reach your desired audience with really influential content and make meaningful impact is through live video. Now, there are some factors which are pretty obvious, equipment being one of them. If you're doing a stellar on location or in studio broadcast, you probably want some of the cameras that are displayed on screen, but that's not the be all and end all. You can use equipment, as I am today, the laptop within my home office. So equipment is one consideration. Another needs to be the framing of images, the lighting so that people can see you, and the audio so people can hear you. But those demands differ based on the different environment you're going live from, whether it's on location, owned or industry events, to studio sets, your office location, or as I'm doing today, my home office. Each environment has its merit and purpose, and the results can be compelling, but there's a format you need to follow. And when we look at some of the statistics provided by insight companies or even the social media platforms themselves, what's really interesting is there's an advocacy of a tangible and irrefutable superior success resulting from live video. And when we look at some of those statistics, it starts to look like a Nike advert saying, just do it. Now, let me give you 4 examples really quickly. Nielsen, and this one is staggering, Nielsen say live content accounts for almost a quarter of global viewing time. So just think about all the other channels that content is consumed within. It is staggering that a quarter of our time is now live. And live content generates 27% more minutes of watch time per viewing than on-demand video. So just by being live, you're going to get almost a third more watch time. eMarketer tell us that 52% of live video viewers stream content through social media. So live and social is intrinsically linked. You probably aren't surprised to hear 63% of 18 to 34-year-olds are regularly consuming live content. But what will surprise you is 34% of 35 to 54-year-olds are regularly consuming live content too. Just think for a moment the audiences you're trying to reach and their ages. And just think of the audiences you're going to want to reach over the next 4, 5, 6 years and their ages. There is a sea change in the content that is being demanded, and we've got to respond to that. The social platforms want the content. We, us people, human beings, we want it. We're entertained by it. We learn from it. We're influenced by it. But as Commander Jim Lovell, that great philosopher, once said, we have a problem. And that problem stems from, unfortunately, some marketers aren't asking the right questions of themselves and their content. And this isn't their fault, by the way. Let me be really clear on this. But it does mean that the wrong content is being produced and going into channel. Unfortunately, there's a demand that comes from boardrooms, whether it's the latest push on a proposition or the latest go-to-market statement that we've got to respond to. Unfortunately, all too often, talented marketers are being pushed into creating content that means more to the business and themselves than the audience out there. We're not creating the audience, the content that impacts the audience. And that's a common problem because it means wasted talent, it means wasted budget, time, effort, But most importantly, it means audience confusion. This is a genuine press advert from about a month ago in the FT. And in case that's not coming across on the screen, at the top it said smart was the first step, cognitive is the next leap. And then the speech marks are cognitive allows us to be more of who we are and accentuate humanity's best. Now, what I found really interesting about this is the comment from Merrin Rosemary Somerset Webb, who some of you will know is the editor-in-chief of Money Week. She writes for the Financial Times, which is interesting about the posts that she's published. And she's a regular commentator on television and radio around financial matters. The point, she has context of advanced technologies. She has context of advanced technologies. And if she, with her wealth of experience, can't piece together what this advert's trying to say, what chance has a business, an audience, being able to come to the conclusion that this company can help them? Now, there is a solution to all of this. And those that know me, they know I'm a huge fan of this book by Sinek. In fact, I've got the entire Wide series over here, including Find Your Own Wide that I'm working through. And the reason I believe strongly in these books is they're all centered around science and human behavior. The first thing I say to any graduate or new recruit is get a copy of that book or the audio book, because I genuinely believe it is a genius marketing Bible. Now, the science part is really interesting. Let me explain. And before I do this, apologies, Simon Sinek. I am not going to do half the job that your wonderful book does. And anyone that's read it, I apologize now for skipping through key elements. But time doesn't allow me to do a page-by-page dissection. The limbic system, it's a collection of structures involved in processing emotion and memory, from fight or flight to recognizing something, be it a distant nostalgic memory or resonance with a task we have. The limbic system processes thoughts, firing information and emotive action. It was historically said to win hearts and minds, being key to marketing. Recent medical evidence shows that what it really should be is win minds, then heart. Win the limbic system, and the human invest their heart in discovering and learning more. And the understanding of this and its application are critical to B2B marketing. And to win the limbic brain, it all starts with why. Unfortunately, too many people are focused on what we do. Salespeople regularly default to this because of training, and I'll come on to that in a moment. But if you think about some of the content your brand has been putting out, I bet it's talking about what the products are, what the proposition is, what the offering is, what it does. They're all what's, sadly. And salespeople naturally gravitate to them because we're taught to fab, feature, advantage, benefit, which is great if you're one-on-one on a phone or with somebody, or like 12 days ago at the B2B Social Trailblazers Summit, when you're interacting with other people. We can feature, advantage, benefit. We say a feature, we receive an objection, and then we chart the advantage and benefit to overcome that objection. It's classic sales objection handling training. But in adverts, we can't objection handle. Now, the hows. Some companies and people do know how they do what they do. And some people call them value propositions or unique selling points. Many believe that they're the differentiation between somebody making a decision to buy a product or a service. There's a little bit of information missing for that to happen. It all starts with the why. Now, I must say, hows are important and should follow your whys. But the reason we start with whys is because of how it resonates with the limbic system. But few people or companies can clearly articulate why they do what they do. Now, this framework was originally cultivated at a brand level, but we have since proven it applies to all levels, from brand to proposition and service. For example, if you're detailing why an AI makes immeasurable impact to category and drives market share, it resonates more than saying what this AI does. Get the point. Which brings me to our live offering. And at Immediate Future, we call it brands as broadcasters. Now, brands clamour to get broadcast coverage, with the sofa, all too often a red sofa, being the holy grail. I have no idea why the sofas are always red, but Brands fight to get on the red sofa, but we're battling with an editorial agenda. We're battling with compliance. There's a limitation to the brand mentions we can do, and all too often you've got a really short snippet. What I was asking myself years ago was, why are so many brands fighting to lease the sofa? Why is nobody looking to own the sofa? And that's made more interesting when you think about some events with brands spending 6 or 7 figure sums on producing their own events and then largely being reliant on the footfall it generates. I'm going to talk to you about a super successful event, Fujitsu Forum, pre-COVID. This was Fujitsu's global event based out of the International Congress Messe in Munich. That's the ICM. 7,000 square meters of event space. It's used by governments, the United Nations. Some of the biggest events and brands in the world today are housed there. For example, Caterpillar use it to showcase their supersized diggers and excavation equipment, the machinery that's used in construction and mining. You can literally drive between all the halls. It's that big. For Fujitsu Forum, Fujitsu were attracting 12,500 visitors flying from over 72 countries around the world. Impressive, you might say. And I should say, they were doing this year in, year out. They were getting those numbers. But we went to Fujitsu and said, what if we could take the event experience to millions of relevant stakeholders globally? What if we could create a 2.5 day broadcast that delves into all the key topics and insight being imparted at Fujitsu Forum, creating a stringent editorial policy that prevented any salesperson from defaulting to product first messaging? It prevented the pushing of credential videos because we have all seen way too many creds videos to last us a lifetime. Instead, Fujitsu, what we want to do is we want to explore all of the provocative topics across technology, mapping how businesses and society can unlock genuine value impact. Fujitsu, we should say, we also want to give away some of your intellectual property, and interviews will not exclusively feature your leadership. They will feature, but we also want to show people from your centre of excellence and even some of the junior marketers that are charged with creating this compelling content. In short, we're going to show the entire world the scope and quality of your individual and collective smarts. We're also proposing Fujitsu fronting up to all the cynicism in technology. Couple of pointers as well. We should say Fujitsu that the interviews will only be long form, which people say doesn't work on social media. We're only going to target CXOs, C-suite, and people say they're not on Facebook. And the 2.5 day broadcast will only go to Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. The year of this discussion was 2017. LinkedIn Live was still 5 years away. Fujitsu agreed to all of our wishes. Now, normally, when an agency is on stage, mapping out, talking up what they did and how they claimed a prophecy and an innovation to a brand, we all think, well, they're definitely embellishing it. What I was really honoured to say 12 days ago at the B2B Social Trailblazers Summit, that Mr. Jim Millen, the very person we had all of these conversations with, was sat in the audience and able to validate that everything I have just said is true, and that is how we said it. But Jim, like everyone at Fujitsu, are amazing. They're an engineering company at their core. They're used to being innovators and coming up with an hypothesis and improving it. And staying true to their heritage, they backed us to create Fujitsu Forum TV Live, a proposition that wasn't mainstream back in B2B in 2017. In fact, every brand that we were talking to at the time was just saying, it's a consumer tactic, what are you doing? So we created this. Pretty cool. That was the intro to what ultimately was broadcast 44 times. We did 44 live interviews, including the broadcast of 4 keynotes across 2.5 days, following that why. We tell our clients to go live for impact because it works. If, and it is a massive if you start with the why. Now, at the time of doing all of this and creating it, whilst we were leading with the why, we didn't realize what we were doing. It was only some years later when Sinek's book came out that it kind of rationalized and put the science around it. We're the first to say we stumbled on this more by luck than judgment, but we're used to innovating and trying things. And when we found a way of creating content for engagement and writing for engagement, we stuck with it, knowing full well it was a big step change from broadcasters and PRs. We tell our clients to go live for impact because, as I said, it works. If you're strong enough to not succumb to defaulting to creds chatter and product first features, and you will have people that want to do that. You will have people that they've got KPIs to get a message out. They've got KPIs to get some NPD to market, and they will want to default to it. And you've got to help them come back to, well, why is this going to cut through? Why is this going to make a difference? Why is this going to help businesses or people who consume the offerings? Do debate why something unlocks brand impact and can drive category advantage. For example, discuss why artificial intelligence, if applied ethically, can unlock comprehensive business value, and do have the confidence to give away a little intellectual property to prove your point. I recall us talking about why countries like Estonia had, with a population of 1.2 million, had created the public sector digital transformation roadmap for every public authority globally. The debate then became, well, in the case of countries with 65 million citizens, or like Britain, Germany, 85 million citizens, why aren't we following what Estonia are doing? And is claiming silos and structure in the UK valid reason for why we can't follow what Estonia were doing? If you start with why, whether you're doing a bells and whistles on location broadcast, whether you're in a studio, whether you're doing a live, as I am today, from my laptop at home using an off-the-shelf product like StreamYard, if you start with why, your message and content will be elevated levels and you will make greater impact. Now, what about ROI? I hear some of you think, well, that's a big number, isn't it? But the one we're most proud of is that 68,688 minutes of view time. End of day 2. This is the minutes viewed and consumed. We weren't interested in the number of viewers. We weren't interested in 3-second views. We cared more about 100% views or 75% view times, because each interview was at least 16 minutes long. It was long form. So if we had those longer metrics, there was a real buying signal. And at the end of 2 days, we went back to Fujitsu and went, great news! We got 69,000 minutes of view time. Fujitsu said, is that good? We replied, we haven't got a clue. But then our founder and our CEO, Katie, figured it out, as she always does. She's a very curious person with a wonderfully curious mind. And she went and found out that that view time is equivalent to us watching all 8 seasons of Game of Thrones, binge watching it 17 times over. And we remember, we were only doing long form content, and we were only targeting CEOs on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. We delivered in spades. One of the recurring questions I've had over the years is why Facebook? And beyond the fact that it's got an amazing live function, it has a low barrier to market. And what I mean by that is we're actually there to network with friends and family. We're not expecting to be sold to. But if a piece of content lands detailing why it's going to solve a business sleepless night, then I'm going to allow myself to be informed and learn from it. LinkedIn, which is an amazing platform and critical to B2B, so please don't misunderstand what I'm about to say. But in B2B, in LinkedIn, we used to being sold to. It has a high barrier to market. Our DMs are full of sales messages. We're bombarded with cold connections requests. And if you're a CEO, you are taking it from all angles, all verticals, all suppliers. Lots of people just jump in and jump out rather than dwelling there. But LinkedIn tell us that we need 5 to 9 touch points now to capture a form fill, not a transactional conversion, just an email address. But too many brands are rushing to get their report or their white paper out. They're not creating those touch points. Forum TV Live allowed us to create way beyond the 9 touch points needed. So then when we were retargeting with the white paper and the reports, the volume of form fills went up significantly. The marketing qualified leads, those golden MQLs, they flooded in and they were nurtured over time into sales qualified leads. Quite literally, Fujitsu said, well done, amazing. Here's more budget. Next year, we're going to build you a purpose-built studio in the middle of Forum, and the live broadcast is going to become theatre to all attendees. And what actually happened, genuinely, it almost became an impromptu breakout area. People dwelled around the live broadcast watching the interviews happen. We literally had people with their phones up, filming us, broadcast the content, sharing out to social. And it was amazing to see that. And the people that featured in the interviews, here's the really compelling part. There was real kudos in what they were doing. So they were sharing the content. They were tagging people. They were tagging their networks. The correlation into content going out and being shared in all those VIP networks was hugely impactful. What about the ROIs in year 2? Well, that's not bad, is it? Same viewed minutes as it would take for you to fly around the world 15 times over, non-stop, only watching Fujitsu Forum TV Live. Now, here's the thing, guys. Genuinely, you can all do this too, whether it's a live from home or a signature broadcast at your event. You might have to factor in equipment, expertise, planners, producers. There will be some problems to solve, but you can all do this. And if you think about the money that gets pumped into events and then the marginal add-on to put a live onto it, which when the content goes out and impacts those stakeholders and gets you the MQLs, when that's all merged with your event infrastructure cost, your ROIs transform massively. Every brand that's ever done this, they stick with it. It's the first tactic that they put in every year. What I really struggle with is the brands that don't do this, because the data says you should be doing it. The performance is there. The evidence is irrefutable about how this moves the needle. You can all do this too. Now, staying true to my key message to you today, what I've actually done is tell you why you need to go live and why live is going to make a transformative impact to your B2B marketing, both now and over the coming years. Undoubtedly, people will have valid questions around costs and deliverables, and we can get to those. But for now, just start looking at how you can elevate the lives that you're doing, your simple lives, and lead with why, and have that confidence to move away from product first. If you do that, you will absolutely transform the impact and the results. I really hope that's taught you something today. Let me just scroll through the comments because I'm mindful there's quite a few of them. As I said, the guild link is in the chat, so if you go and take a look at it, there's a really lovely group there for like-minded marketers. I've been seeing messages pop up over the last couple of days. So Analytica are already cultivating that great community, and if you jump on the hashtag, you can follow all of that content from the B2B Social Trailblazers Summit. Last week, Tim, the CEO at Analytica, and Katie Howard, CEO of Immediate Future, they shared some data findings around B2B marketing. Really interesting reading. The report is out there. Go and grab hold of it and take a look. And please take all this actionable insight into your marketing, because we want all of you to break that social boring. We want all of you to go and do great things with your content going forward. And please, please, please go and do lives. It really makes a difference. And if any of you have got questions that you want to take offline, I am super easy to find. cj@immediatefuture.co.uk or on Twitter @Colin Jacobs. As simple as that. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you learned something. And no doubt both Analytica and Immediate Future will have more content for you coming soon. Thanks very much. Take care.